Welcome to the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Coming up in this week's episode, we're going to visit with Creekside head coach Mo Dixon. His Seminoles might be the most dominant team in the state, pound per pound. They are currently ranked number 3 in 4A and behind North Oconee and Cartersville. More on that coming up in just a moment. I'll kind of explain all that. But they have been the most dominant team in the state. They're averaging over 61 points per game. They're giving up 7 points per game. They've had shutouts in 6 of their 8 games. They are just obliterating their region. And going to visit with them as they try to get back to the state championship game for the first time since 2023. This might be the best Seminoles team they've ever had. That remains to be seen. But we'll talk to Mo Dixon about all that and more coming up here on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. And, okay, the reason why I'd have them ranked number 3, not number 1. Look, North Oconee, they are the defending state champions in 4A. They haven't lost since the 2023 season. They did lose their all-state player, Kamari Brooks, who's committed to the Georgia Bulldogs, but they're still unbeaten. I didn't feel like it was right to drop them from number 1 simply because they lost their star player. That's not fair to all the other players in my mind. And it's going to play out in the playoffs. So the rankings, this is all just a conversation piece anyway. But North Oconee remains number 1. Cartersville has not lost a regular season game since 2020. And that includes beating Creekside at their place a couple of years ago. In fact, we did that game on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. So you're talking about a North Oconee team, hasn't lost since 2023, defending state champions. They're number 1. Cartersville hasn't lost a regular season game since 2020. They're number 2. And then you got Creekside. And Creekside's going to get their chance to prove it on the field that they're the state champions. And they might end up being the state champions. Deal is they play, I don't want to call it a weak region, but they are so much better than everybody else in their region, it makes the region look weak. So we'll talk about Creekside with head coach Mo Dixon coming up here on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. I certainly think they got a legitimate shot at running the table, going 15-0, and winning the state championship. And it might be the best Seminoles team we've ever seen. And we'll talk about that with Mo Dixon coming up here on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. We're going into the next to last Friday night of the regular season in Georgia high school football. And so games are going to start to pick up again, going to start being a little bit more competitive. We kind of got into that lull that we get every year once we get into October, where teams start playing all these weak teams in their region, and they're just a bunch of blowouts. And so we've had that the last couple of weeks with just a few exceptions. We've had that the last couple of weeks. But now that we get to the final couple of weeks of the regular season, games are going to really be competitive. We got games this Friday night that could decide region championships, clinch them. Got games this Friday night that are going to clinch playoff positioning within the regions as we're going into this final year of high school football, where you, based on your region standings, it fills out the playoff bracket. So it's still important. And so that's going to happen here over the next couple of weeks. And so games are going to be a lot more competitive here these next 2 Friday nights than they have been by and large over the last 3 weeks. And coming up on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia, we got a big game in Region 7 6A as the 5th-ranked North Gwinnett Bulldogs play at the Norcross Blue Devils. This is a huge region showdown and a huge rivalry game as well. So North Gwinnett, here's the deal. If they win, they're the region champs. They clinch the region championship, whether they lose or not the final weekend, which they're not going to be favored to lose. They're going to be favored to win. So this is a big game. They win this, they're going to be the region champs. Now, if Norcross wins, going to throw the region into some chaos here, at least for this going into the final weekend. You'll have a 3-way tie for first. Now, it's kind of not going to finish that way because Norcross closes with Brookwood. So here's the situation. If Norcross wins this Friday night, that opens the door for them to possibly be the region champions. They would have to beat Brookwood the final Friday night of the regular season to do it. And actually, if they don't beat Brookwood, if Brookwood wins, then that means North Gwinnett would end up being the region champions anyway, even if they lose this Friday night. So should be a great game. North Gwinnett at Norcross, Region 7 6A championship is on the line. It'll be the 30th all-time meeting between these two teams. Blue Devils lead the all-time series 15-14, including a 31-14 win over the Bulldogs in the 2013 state championship game. So they were in the same region, ended up playing for the state championship. It's not totally rare, but it's not totally common either. So that happened back in 2013, more than a decade ago. And so it'll be interesting to see new head coaches for both teams. Of course, Eric Godfrey, not new, but relatively new, in that Bob Spire was the head coach back in 2013, and the legendary coach Keith Maloof was the head coach for the Blue Devils back in 2013 when they won back-to-back state championships. He just recently retired. This is his first year not coaching the Blue Devils in a quarter century, and Corey Richardson, his longtime right-hand man assistant coach, is now the head coach. So that's kind of the storylines for this game coming up on Friday night on JPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. Bulldogs have won 6 straight in the series. Last 3 games have been really tight, though. In 2022, it was a 35-27 Bulldogs final. 2023, a shootout, 51-41. The Bulldogs won. And in 2024, 27-21, North Gwinnett won. So those are the big stories coming up. Let's take a look at the biggest wins of week number 10. This is week 11 coming up. So week number 10, the biggest wins, before we jump into our conversation with head coach Mo Dixon of Creekside. Number 5 on my list, you got in 2A. You got number 6, Rockmart, a 41-27 win over then 10th ranked Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. Yellow Jackets stay on a collision course to play number 6 North Murray for the region championship. Rockmart is up to number 4 in my 2A top 10 this week, and LFO falls out of the top 10. Quarterback Tucker Parson, remember the name. He's Coach Biff Parsons' son. He was 12 of 22 passing for 194 yards and 3 touchdowns in the Yellow Jackets win. Number 4 on my list comes from 1A Division 1. Last year we'll have 1A Division 1, thankfully. Going to split up those divisions. Instead of Division 1, Division 2, and 1A, we'll have 1A and we'll have 2A. Dublin beats number 5 Bleckley County 42-19. Fighting Irish jump back into a 3-way tie for first in Region 2 and back into my top 10 at number 9, knocking out the Royals. Dublin, typical 317 yards rushing in the route. That's what they do on a Friday night. And they turned a 14-13 halftime game into a rout with a 21-point third quarter. Number 3 on my list came from AA and Crisp County, a 28-16 win over previous number 4 Pierce County. That's the biggest upset of the week in all the rankings. Crisp finally had a tight game go in their favor. 5 of the Cougars' 6 losses this year have been by 1 score or less, and they're now 3-6 on the season. Bears dropped to number 7 in my top 10, but by no means are they out. That was their first regular season loss for the Bears since 2022. I know one of the more prominent rankings, I consider mine prominent, one of the prominent rankings dropped them out of the top 10. I didn't drop them out of the top 10. Ryan Herring's got a great program. Cougars, because of all those losses, they were 2-6 going into the game. But like I said, 5 of the 6 had been by 1 score. Crisp County was a lot better than their record looked, and Pierce County found that out. That's number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list of biggest wins came from 3A, and 7th-ranked Troop, a 38-24 win over crosstown rival number 5 LaGrange. That means the Tigers are now on a collision course with number 1 Sandy Creek for the region title next Friday night. Troop is up to number 5 in my top 10. Granger's dropped down to number 7 in my rankings. The win snapped the Tigers' 3-game losing streak in the 38-game series that dates back to 1968. And that was a big rivalry game, and that was our GBB Sports stream game of the week. And our GBB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia game of the week was another big rivalry win and game. And that's number 1 on my list, as 6A number 5 McEachern beat number 10 Hillgrove 35-14. So that was a big rivalry game. Both teams were unbeaten overall and in the region, obviously, going into the game. It was 21-14 into the fourth quarter before the Indians pulled away in the final 8 minutes. Henry Pullen had 105 yards rushing, a couple of touchdowns. Here's a young man. Yeah, he needs to get more offers. He's a make that kid an offer kind of guy in my book, although technically for my all-state team, he wouldn't have counted for the make that kid an offer because he's got an offer from Jacksonville State. But he's only got 2 offers. He's a great running back. He is a transfer from Campbell where he played in the wing T last year. So this offense that McEachern runs under head coach Kareem Reed is a better showcase for his running back talents. And get this, the Hawks' first-team defense, they'd given up only 13 points the entire year. And the first-team defense for the Hawks had not given up any points until this game, but McEachern put 35 on them. So McEachern, state championship contender, there's no doubt about it in my book. When they play their game, if they can keep the lead, play their game, they're not tremendous at quarterback. I think C.J. Pittman's a really good high school football quarterback. Maybe some of the teams above them have more stellar quarterbacks, but if they can play their game, if they can stick to their game plan and play with a lead or play close, I like McEachern against almost anybody. I think they can compete with anybody. It'll be interesting to see, the teams that are in front of them right now in the rankings. You got Carrollton and you got Grayson and Buford. It'll be interesting matchups, and I think they're going to get a shot at some of those guys. I think right now they would be, based on the way the bracket shakes out, they would be, on target to play Buford in the state semifinals. And maybe Grayson or Carrollton there in the state finals if they get that far. So I think they have the potential to do that. Remember, McEachern is the team in the state. It's kind of the team in the state. They got more region championships than any other program in the state without a state championship. They've won 20 region championships, but they've never won a state championship. And they got to the state finals just once in program history, and that was in 1998 when A.J. Suggs, remember him, quarterback, went on to play at Georgia Tech, led them to the state finals, their legendary head coach Jimmy Dorsey, but they did not win that year. This might be the year. We'll wait and see. But impressive win for me. That's number 1 on my biggest winners list. McEachern beating a Hillgrove team that had given up only 13 points the entire year and winning by a final score of 35-14. And more on that coming up when I name my players of the week, which is what we are getting ready to do here in just a moment. McEachern, by the way, can clinch the region championship this Friday night with a victory over South Cobb, and they'll be heavy favorites to do that. And they are 2 wins away from a 9th 10-0 regular season in program history. So, and they'll be favored to do that. They're going to be favored heavily in their next 2 games. All the big obstacles are out of their way. They've already beaten Harrison, and now they've beaten Hillgrove. And that Harrison-Hillgrove game is coming up this Friday night, and that's going to be a big one because the winner of that game is going to get a 2 seed coming out of that region, and the loser is going to be a 3 seed coming out of that region. Again, we are not in the PSR era just yet, so the region standings still count a lot. And if you end up being that 3 seed coming out of that region or any region, you're going to be on the road in the playoffs. So it's important still. All right, let's name my players of the week. Like, follow, subscribe, by the way. I don't think I've said that yet. I need to hit myself in the head. I need to say that because I need more of you people to like, follow, and subscribe. So please do. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening on Spotify or iHeart or Apple, if you're just listening to it instead of watching it, which is fine, subscribe to it, please. So bump those numbers up for me. I'm here for that, as they like to say. All right, let's talk about our players of the week. And again, I kind of feel like I need to say something here about my players of the week, because you'll find, you can find players of the week. You can find players out there. Let me put it this way. You can find players out there who have bigger weeks statistically. If a player rolled up big numbers in a 40 or 50-0 rout against a team they were supposed to mash, good for you. That's great. I'm not discounting that it was important, but that's not going to make my players of the week. I'm looking for players who had big games against teams that were ranked or teams that were really good, and the games were supposed to be competitive. Now, they might not have ended up being competitive, but they were anticipated to be big games. So that's kind of my caveat on my players of the week. My quarterback of the week is Ben Musser of Prince Avenue. He's been there before. 14 of 20 passing for 288 yards, 3 touchdowns in the Wolverines' 45-14 win over Franklin County, a Franklin County team that was having an historic season. They were 6-1 coming in. So big win for Prince Avenue. Musser is a 4-star quarterback. He's rated as high as the number 7 dual threat quarterback in 2027. Recently decommitted from Virginia Tech with their coaching change. He's got 12 other offers, including Penn State, another coaching change, Purdue, and Cincinnati. So wait and see where Ben ends up going. My running back of the week, Nate Davis of Rockmart, 19 carries for 164 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns in the Yellow Jackets' 41-27 win over number 10 LFO, Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. And Davis is a Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast 2A preseason All-State player at linebacker. He's a great 2-way player. And I've seen Rockmart play in person, and I love Nate Davis. He's one of those guys. Coaches will call these guys, he's an Energizer Bunny kind of guy. Never comes off the field. He plays linebacker, plays running back, never gets tired. Nate Davis is my running back of the week. My wide receiver of the week, Deshaun Fedd of Crisp County, had 8 catches for 200 yards receiving in the Cougars' 28-16 upset over Pierce County. Fedd is the coach of Clifford Fedd, the head coach. 8 offers, including Georgia State, Jacksonville State, and UAB. Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast 2A preseason All-State player. Deshaun Fedd is my wide receiver of the week. My offensive lineman of the week is Jordan Pedway of McEachern, 6'4", 310 left tackle, committed to West Georgia. And here's the story on him. I mean, he's a great player. We're out there like we always do. We go down on the field before the game, me and Wayne Gandy, John Nelson, our producer, Glenn Diamond, and we're watching the players, talking to the coaches again. You know, we talk to the coaches for an hour on Wednesdays, and then we talk to them again. But it's usually just kind of chit-chat kind of stuff when we go out there on Friday night, just getting the updates, see if anything's going on. So while we're doing all this, we're also looking at players. You know, wow, look how big that guy is. Amazing. Look at, man, he looks great. So anyway, I say that because Wayne Gandy, of course, who was an All-American offensive lineman at Auburn, played every snap of his career at Auburn for 4 years. Means he was a starter when he got there as a freshman. And then, of course, played 15 years in the National Football League, offensive lineman, first-round draft pick, number 15 pick in the draft by the LA Rams. So he knows something about offensive linemen. That's what I'm trying to say. He knows a good-looking offensive lineman when he sees them. And so he looks at this kid, Jordan Pedway. He's like, this kid looks good. And so he did, and then he went out and played like it too. So Jordan Pedway of McEachern is my offensive lineman of the week. My defensive lineman of the week comes from that same game, Darryl Rivers of McEachern, Tennessee Vols 3-star commit. He was unblockable in this game in the 35-14 win over Hillgrove. They just could not stay in front of this guy. He's huge. He finished with 2 quarterback sacks. He blocked a field goal. He forced a fumble. He made a one-arm tackle at the 5-yard line. If you're watching that game, I was like, wow. I mean, the guy was running. He was at the 5-yard line. They're on defense, and Hillgrove's at the 5. He's being blocked. He might have been being held. He was being blocked. Guy runs by him. He reaches back and pulls him down with one arm. And Hillgrove's got good running backs. He just pulled him down with one arm. Darryl Rivers, very impressive. Can't wait to see what he does with the Tennessee Volunteers, talking to head coach Kareem Reed. They kind of consider him really a raw product. They feel like he's going to really be even better, as you would anticipate. You might say that about everybody, but, I mean, in other words, they're saying he's got a lot of room for growth when he gets to Tennessee. He's going to play for Rodney Garner, who's the D-line coach there at Tennessee. So Darryl Rivers, we were all very impressed with Darryl Rivers, that's for sure. Our linebacker of the week, my linebacker of the week is J.T. Austin of Sandy Creek. 9 total tackles, quarterback sack, 2 TFL, forced fumble recovery in the Fighting Patriots 62-21 win over Whitewater. He is a junior linebacker with 5 offers, including Georgia State, Kennesaw State, and North Alabama. J.T. Austin, Sandy Creek, is my linebacker of the week. My defensive back of the week is Zion Crawford of Hayfield Charter. 2 picks, 6 solo tackles, a PBU, pass broken up, in the Hornets' 21-0 shutout win over Lovett. He is a senior cornerback committed to Alabama State. Zion Crawford of Hakeville Charter is my DB of the week. And watch out for the Hornets. They are 4-4 on the season. Don't let that record fool you. They play a difficult schedule. This is a team to watch in that 2A playoff bracket. Watch out for the Hornets. And my kick returner of the week is Rontre Welch of Carrollton. Had another 99-yard kick return touchdown. He's got 3 kick return touchdowns this season. This one came in the Trojans' 50-23 win over East Coweta. And he is a sophomore that is going to be big time by the time he's a senior. So like, follow, and subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple, or iHeart. Time now to bring in Creekside coach Maurice Dixon. And Coach Dixon, thanks a lot for being with us. Congratulations on your 8-0 season start.
I appreciate it. We're just taking it one game at a time, man. You know, our ultimate goal is to win the 15th, but 8-0 sounds pretty good.
We're going to talk about all that. You're 5-0 in the Region 4, 4A. You can clinch your 4th straight region title by beating Maynard Jackson on the road this Friday night. There's not been a more dominant team in the state. I mean, you guys are averaging 61 points per game. You're giving up 7 points per game. You've shut out 6 of your 8 opponents. Could this be your best team ever?
We're going to see because, you know, we just got to finish the drill. I can't call it now. That'll be kind of putting the jinx on them. But, you know, if we're able to go win that 15th game, I think they'll be up there with one of the greatest.
Well, I think you got a great chance to get to that 15th game, no doubt about it. You're 52-11 the last 4+ seasons, reaching the 2023 state championship game during this run. You've had 2 semifinal finishes and a quarterfinal finish during this run. Is there anything that your team still needs to do that maybe the others didn't in order to stand on that podium in Mercedes-Benz Stadium and hold the trophy like the 2013 Seminoles did back in the old Georgia Dome?
I think we just need to have a growth mindset to attacking every day, trying to get better. I know it's cliche, but just getting that 1% better every day. Focusing on the drill at hand or the game that's on our schedule next. If we do those things, I think we'll take care of business.
You know, that 2013 team ran the table, went 15-0, didn't win a playoff game by less than 3 touchdowns, so they dominated once they got into the postseason. Is that a goal for your team? Do you guys talk in terms of that? Talk in terms of making history?
Nah, we kind of be where our feet at. We're focused on the moment at hand. We know and they know going into the season that we had the opportunity to do something very special. So we just focused them on being very good people. And a byproduct of them being good people is having great results on Friday night.
Well, your team is coming off a 91-0 victory over Drew 2 Friday nights ago, record-setting victory. But I look back at that 70-28 win over DeSoto, Texas, as the watershed moment of the season for your team. You know, after they had beaten you 70-0 out there in Texas. What did that tell you about your team that maybe you didn't know already when you guys took care of business against DeSoto?
I think it just confirmed who we thought we were coming into the season. You're talking about a team that lost maybe 4 seniors who played last year. So we returned a lot of experience and, you know, being in our region and playing the games that we play, we were able to play a lot of kids. So we were able to build a lot of depth. I think this is probably the most depth we've had in the 9 years I've been here. So with that going forward, I knew that against them, if we were able to play to our level, or play to our best, we would have a shot to, you know, make some believers out of everybody.
Yeah, you talk about the depth on your team, and as you go up and down your roster, and we'll talk about some of your players coming up here in just a few moments, but a lot of your depth, you do have a lot of, very good seniors, but you also have a pretty deep junior class as well. So it looks like, and not that this has been a one-year run for you guys, like we just said, the last 4+ seasons, you guys have been among the best in the state, but it looks like you're set up with a pretty deep succession of talent within your program.
Yeah, we knew this was a window that we had. Last year we were a little bit of we were ahead of schedule last year. We lost a lot from that 23 team, but we knew we had something special in 26 and 27. Honest with you, the 27 class kind of leads the team. We got good players and good kids in 26, but it's kind of 27 lead and bread.
Yeah, this is your ninth season, as you alluded to, as the head coach at your alma mater. We've all talked about the story of when you took over your first season. You got the job, basically just a couple of weeks before the regular season started. And you guys went, 0-10 that year. I don't know what else you could expect when you take over a team as close to the season as you did, but you came back and took over your alma mater. The next 3 years, you had really good teams, and then in 2021, it kicked in. They become great teams. And congratulations with your next victory. You will tie your coach, Amos McCrary, with the all-time wins in Creekside history as the coach. What have you been able to do to get the Seminoles program back to its roots, back to some of the things that Coach McCrary taught you as a player?
I just really brought back consistency. That first year we went 0-10. I was able to put in some things like weight training and to focus on being just a good person and as well as a good athlete. And then we were able to grow. And then I got a principal that came in about 3 years ago. She made me be a little bit better than I was. She started making me do things like do a football handbook and plan, your 3 to 5 years out of where you want to be. So those things kind of helped me, change the trajectory of the program.
So not only have your players grown and learned, you've grown and learned, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. So, we've talked about it a lot when we've had conversations with you in the past about I don't know if I call it the revival of Southside football because it's always been there, but I don't know that it's ever exceeded at the level that you guys are right now with you. And of course, Langston Hughes is also a Fairburn school. And you got Sandy Creek nearby. And, Westlake, of course, has traditionally been a strong power, although they might be a little bit down right now. And then you kind of spread out that arc a little bit out there to Johnny White out there at Douglas County. You guys have really kind of taken the South Side mantra to a new level, haven't you?
Hey man, what you can't do, you can't forget about Landmark. I
And
think they're
Landmark,
trying to
yes,
see
Landmark
right
just
now.
had, yeah, they have only one loss too. That's right.
Uh-huh. I just think it's some special things going on in Fairburn. If you look at the youth football, and I've been a part of it because my son's a junior. Just the amount of talent that was in that class of 27 and 26. Everybody got a little bit of it, and if you were able to nurture that talent, you were able to kind of be successful in football.
What's it been like coaching your son? And of course, we were there, unfortunately, that night when he suffered a pretty severe injury against Mays last year on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. And I know that was a tough night for you. And I applaud you because, you kept things together for your team and, you were leading your team that night. But what's it been like coaching him?
And I'll be honest with you, I don't coach him. I'm I'm more of the head coach. He's a DB defensive player. So he's around Coach McCreary and Coach Amy and Coach Collins all the time, and they do a good job with him. I'm more of an offensive minded person, so I kind of be with the offensive line. But I look down there and I see him doing good things, and he's a good player. And so I think the conversations that we have going home and at home are important, because I think he more than me tries to keep that player coach relationship on the field. He
Yeah.
always my boy, so I don't know.
How does that work? Does he help you out a lot in kind of giving you the pulse of the team and kind of giving you some insight to where the players are sometimes? I mean, I would think at 8-0 and the way you guys have dominated, things are pretty smooth sailing right now. But there's always some choppy waters in there. But does he help you out?
Nah, my boy don't rat, man. He loyal to the team, man.
Rat out his teammates.
Yeah,
I got
I'm saying? There'd be some things that happen, and he'd be like, "Well, Dad, I saw it going on, but I just didn't want to." And I can respect that, because at the end of the day, he has to account for his team. And I teach that, as a team goes, we go. But I think as coaches, we do a good job of making sure that we know kind of what's going on.
Yeah, you got a great coaching staff. There's no doubt about that. And I know that's a big key to your success as well. Let's talk about some of your guys. Let's start with your All-State make that kid an offer guy, quarterback Caden Benson. I mean, I don't know. There is not a more. I'm not going to say I don't know, but I know there is not a more accomplished quarterback in this state than Caden, who has fewer offers than Caden. What have you seen from Caden now that he's reached his senior year and just keeps chopping wood, as some coaches like to say? He's just an outstanding quarterback, but unfortunately doesn't have kind of the offers to match that.
I just tell them that, as long as we keep winning, everybody wants to be a part of a win at the end of the day. There's not a kid that I've coached that has taken the strides that Caden has from when he first got here to where he is now. He's very coachable. He listens. And he goes out there and he the game plan is shown through how he performs. He's doing a good job of letting his playmakers make plays, not putting too much on his shoulders, but understanding that if it needs to, he can take over the game and do what he got to do to help us win. So I'm just the maturity that he's shown. I'm excited and proud about it.
Well, he does have a lot of playmakers around him, and that's a strength for your team. I think another strength for him personally is I think from what I've seen when I've had a chance to see him in person is his decision-making ability. He makes good decisions with the football.
That's definitely something that we've worked on. I think last year, the offense wasn't as open as it was early in the year because he had to learn to consistently make good decisions. But in the offseason, and Coach Trent, our offensive coordinator, has pressed upon him that if he makes great decisions, the more we'll allow him doing the offense.
You got a great running back room with junior Gary Walker and senior Ced Kelly. Gary's already picked up offers from the likes of BC and Stanford. Tell us about your running back room.
Um, it's pretty good, man. We don't talk enough about Caden Mosley. He's our number 3 back. He's quietly having a very good year. I think he's a starter at a lot of other programs in the metro area. But Gary and Sid are as good as they come. I've been knowing Sid since he was a little kid, man. He been playing with my son and Gary the same way. So to watch those guys grow up, the talent has always been there with Sid. It's just him deciding that he wants to be the best player on the field. And
Yeah.
then with Gary, as he grows, and becomes a full running back, he's probably one of the best in the country.
Yeah, between the two of them, I think they've got about 1,500 yards rushing. So a great running back combo for you guys right there. And I'm guessing, and I'm guessing that really only half. They're only really playing halves. I mean, because they're probably not playing a lot in the second half, given your lopsided scores this season. So their numbers, statistically, if we were just looking at that, could be even greater than they are. But you don't need to use them when you don't need to use them. So how about seniors Damian Henderson and Eric Paul in your receiver room? They're your top 2 pass catchers. Eric's a 3-star, has offers from the likes of Memphis, Liberty, and West Virginia.
Um, you know, I think Damian Henderson is one of the best players in the state. I watched him put the work in the offseason, running track, playing high level 7-on-7, and still not missing the workout for Creekside, whether it's before school or at night when we throwing. And to see the growth of him, recruiters there were a lot of questions about his speed, but he's become the big play guy in our offense. Eric, EP, he consistent as it comes, man. When we get him the ball, he makes plays with it. Pound for pound, I think he's one of the best players in the country at his position. He plays bigger than his size and is a very explosive athlete.
Let's talk about your guys up front on your offensive line that are blocking for this offense. And I know that's kind of that's your baby right there. You already alluded to it, the fact that you coach the offensive line in addition to your head coaching duties. You got 3-star Georgia Southern commit Javon Perry up there and junior Jalen Moore, who is blossoming into one of the top offensive lineman prospects in the class of 2027, and already has offers from Alabama, Georgia, Georgia Tech, and a whole bunch of other guys.
Javon is a product of our program. Hardworking kid. I pulled him out the basketball court in 9th grade. Really got into the weight room and learned how to play football. Had to become a physical player. but has become one of our most physical players on the team. Do wrestling in the offseason. Is really what you want in modern day lineman. He's about 6'3.5", about 275, with a frame that easily get bigger. Honestly, I have to feel like he should have some of those big offers. But Georgia Southern is getting a very good football player, and he's happy about his decision. Jalen, Jalen is a very good player. But we just got to be work on his consistency. He flashes greatness, but sometimes it's just very inconsistent. As he becomes a better person, I think he become a great player. I
Do
want to talk
you,
about. I want to
yeah,
talk about.
go, yeah,
I want to talk about some guys who don't get enough love.
sure,
Um,
please do.
Caleb Noel has started 38 games at center for us. I feel like he's a Division I interior lineman. Rylan Robertson is another guy. He's a little undersized. He's about 5'11", 270. But if you put his tape on against any big guy in the state, it's just as good as anybody in the state. So those two guys and then Lawrence Martin, that five makes us a very good offense because we can kind of do anything we want with them. They can
Yeah.
run, they're strong, and at the end of the day, they move people.
Do you find though, kind of going back to what you were talking about with Jalen Moore, when a kid has as much size that he has, that sometimes maybe it takes them a little bit more time to develop because they've just naturally just been so much bigger than everybody else that they just use just their physical dominance and don't necessarily, and it's not a knock against them, it's just a natural thing. The technique comes later because they growing up, they've never had to use technique. They just bully guys.
Jalen is like an elite athlete, right? So the things he can do with his feet, with his arms and his body position are just naturally done because he got a basketball background. Now you got to do things like improve his strength and get his technique together, which all that'll come together. And you'll see like a very very good player.
Let's talk about some of your guys over there on defense. My goodness, your defense has given up 56 points the entire year, and those came in two games. Your game against Rome, which was a huge win for you in the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic, and then in the aforementioned game against DeSoto. And then you've had shutouts the rest of the season, which is just extraordinary, led by your junior linebacker, Major Lavelle, who's been offered by Indiana, senior Dakari Farley, junior Tavari Terrell, junior defensive lineman Cassius Birch. I've seen all these guys, all of them tremendous players. And in the secondary, senior Tyreek Holsey, who's been offered by Western Michigan. I mean, top to bottom, you got a great defense.
I I tell people all the time, my best players play defense. If you want to be a good team, the easiest way to win games is not allowing points. So you want to put your best players on that side of the ball. And I think at all three levels that we got really, really good players, and there's a lot of depth there. On the D line, we go like 7 deep. Linebackers, we could play about 3 or 4 guys there. And in the secondary, we could play like 8 or 9 guys there. We still feel comfortable with who's on the field.
Next year, the playoffs will be seeded by the Georgia High School Association's PSR, the postseason rankings. In the current PSR, your team would be ranked number 3. You'd be a number 3 seed going in, the number 3 seed overall going into the 4A playoffs. Do you like the new change? Do you like the change in the playoff format?
Um, I don't know. I
Think,
think
that's the kind of answer I get from a lot of coaches. They just
yeah, I
don't know.
think it rewards you for not playing a tough schedule, honestly. And now if you win those games, it rewards you. But if you go out there and find guys teams that you can beat, you're kind of gonna be a top seed in the playoffs. I talked about 80 last week. Just as long as you win, you're gonna be fine. It's when you don't win, you're gonna struggle. And if you feel like you're the best team in the state, it don't matter where you fall on the number. You're gonna have to beat good teams to win championship anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing it would take away is going to take away those coin tosses in the later
Uh-huh.
rounds. So, I mean, as a 3 seed, if you go into the playoffs, let's just use example of right now as a 3 seed, that means your home field through the quarterfinals, but it means you'd be on the road in the semifinals. There wouldn't be any coin toss to determine
Mhm.
that. So I don't know that it benefits you guys. I see a lot of programs where it does benefit. I don't know that it benefits you guys that greatly because I mean you guys dominate, and so it's really, really for you guys. I think it just comes down to where you're playing in the playoffs as far as home field.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have an advantage playing at home. There's nothing like the swamp on Friday nights.
I was getting ready to
Um,
say, though, now with the cooler weather, you lose a little bit of that advantage because the skeeters go away.
it's just the
Don't
way
they,
that it gets.
don't they die out by now?
Oh yeah, but I'm telling you, there's something in the water and the wind, man. The way those lights hit the field, it's just a different environment in November and December.
Yeah, I love coming to the swamp, except, I got ate up by the skeeters the last time I was there, man. Gotta bring the off or something like that. But it is a tremendous environment that you guys play in. Um, One final question, looking at the 4A right now, North Oconee, Cartersville, you guys have been ranked there at the top of the rankings the entire season long. And there may be somebody else in 4A that jumps up there and is a factor before it's all said and done. But you guys certainly are in the mix to be there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on that final day of the season. How do you see the 4A bracket shaping up?
We kind of plug in and play in every week. I feel like Cartersville is a very good team. I feel like Marist, Benedictine, the Blessed Trinities of the world. Norfolk Coney is the returning champion, so they're doing something right up there. It's about 6 teams. I feel like they got a shot. If the ball falls in their court to be there in them stadium. I'm just hoping I'm one of those 2 teams.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned the three private schools. Certainly, you can't turn your back on those guys, Marist, Benedictine, and Blessed Trinity. Those guys will have something to say in the playoffs. Well, Coach, thanks a lot for being with us, and look forward to seeing this Creekside team make a deep run in the state playoffs. And we look forward to catching up with you during the postseason.
Thanks, man, for having me, man. Try pride.
Always great to visit with head coach Mo Dixon, and don't be surprised if you see the Creekside Seminoles playing for the state championship in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in December. I won't be surprised. I'm not predicting they're going to be there because there's a lot of competition out there, but I won't be surprised if they're there competing for the state championship in December. Like, follow, subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on iHeart, listening on Spotify, or listening on uh, Apple Podcasts. So wherever you're getting your podcasts, like, follow, subscribe for me, please. All right. Before we close out the podcast this week, let's hit the top recruiting news, the biggest decisions of the week. And this is involving the Georgia High School Association players or players who used to play in the Georgia High School Association. In one case, not one who never has. So you'll figure it out here in a moment. Let's start with Corey Howard, Valdosta 6'6", 260, senior consensus 3-star edge. He flipped from Georgia to Alabama over the weekend. Howard had been committed to the Bulldogs since June, picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide in August, and then took an unofficial visit to Tuscaloosa this weekend before making his decision to flip to the Crimson Tide. So watch that. My friend Barton Simmons, who's now the general manager of the Vanderbilt Commodores, and we worked together for a long time, a decade ago, when he was basically the top guy at 24/7 Sports, and he did color with us on our high school football games, regional high school football games. He always said, and he taught me a very valuable lesson that I try to hold on to this day. He says, follow the visits. Follow the visits. If you want to figure out where a kid's going, follow the visits. So he just comes back from a visit to Tuscaloosa, and Corey Howard flips to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Next one on my list is Asa Wall. This is a very interesting one. John Millage Academy, so 6'3", 225, sophomore tight end. So we're just talking about a 10th grader, but he committed to the Georgia Bulldogs over 6 other offers, including Georgia Tech and Alabama. He plays for his dad, J.T. Wall. You longtime Georgia Bulldog fans might remember J.T. He was a great fullback for the Bulldogs about 20 years ago. And he had been the Trojans head coach for the last 50 seasons, John Millage Academy, the Trojans. And they've won 5 GISA state championships. So Asa, his son, commits to the Georgia Bulldogs to follow in his dad's footsteps. And he's only a 10th grader, so he's got a lot of high school football to go. But he is a huge kid already at 6'3", 225. Number 3 on my list is Zakir Abdul Salam. We saw him this past Friday night on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia playing for McEachern. 6'3", 230 senior, 3-star edge, plays defensive end for the Indians. He committed to Kennesaw State last week over 26 other offers, including Georgia Tech and Jacksonville State. Javaris Warner from Troop, 5'10", 185 junior running back, committed to Cincinnati over 11 other offers, including Georgia State and Troy, and then went out and had a huge game against LaGrange in the Tigers' crosstown rivalry victory that we talked about earlier in the podcast. Jaden Duckett, Sprayberry, 6'1", 185 senior quarterback, committed to the Citadel over 7 other offers. And, of course, Sprayberry's having a great season. They've had a great couple of seasons now, and it'll be interesting to watch those guys as they're in a tight battle there, and they already lost to Sequoia, so chances of them getting the number 1 seed out of that region going to be tough, but they want to get that number 2 seed if they can, so they get a home playoff game there in the first round. So be interesting to watch him. Jaden Duckett, their quarterback, just committed to the Citadel. Next on my list is Quadre Barnes from Jonesboro, 6'4", 270 senior offensive lineman. Committed to West Georgia over offers from Akron and Bethune-Cookman. Watch out for the Wolves. If you keep up with recruiting, they're getting a lot of players out of the state of Georgia, so good for them. FCS program, and they're getting some good players. Quadre's next one on the list. Nyreek Sharp, formerly of Stockbridge High School, big 6'2", 175 cornerback. He's a 3-star. He's playing for Holmes Community College after graduating from Stockbridge. He committed to Charlotte over numerous offers, including Georgia State. And Raj Waldrop, formerly of the Brookwood School in Thomasville, 6'5", 205 quarterback. He started his career with Georgia State, played there, or he was on the roster there in 2024, never got on the field, and he's been playing this past season at East Mississippi Community College, and now he's committed to Troy. And if you don't keep up with the Sun Belt, Troy's having a great season this year. They're in the mix for the Western Division title, so good for them. And Raj Waldrop, who put up all kinds of numbers, big-time numbers, set state records playing in GISA. Now he's committed to Troy. So that's going to do it. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Again, join us on Friday night, GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. Got a great game in Region 7, 6A, potential region championship on the line. Certainly, this game will determine who the region champion is going to be. If it's North Gwinnett, if they win, it's them. And if Norcross wins, then they've got a shot to wrap it up the next week. So join us on Friday night, special time again, 7 o'clock on GPB TV. Join me with my good buddy Wayne Gandy and John Nelson, our entire GPB Emmy Award-winning team, Friday night at 7 o'clock on Georgia Public Broadcasting. All right, that's going to do it. We'll see you next week on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Remember, like, follow, subscribe.